Walking these streets, shadows fall, lost in a world, echoes call, searching for life, voices true, St. James Church in the heart of the blue. Glorify God, nurture all, share the gospel, hear the call, that is what we do.
Well, welcome to our 75th anniversary video or interview. Today we're interviewing Doug and Gretchen Whitham, and they've been here for quite some time, and so this should be some interesting information. So tell me, how did you guys get here, and why did you join this church?
Well, my parents attended this church, and so I was born into this congregation in the church at Western Avenue, which and I was baptized there March 4, 1962.
Okay.
Pastor Norman Lecht, or Luke, I believe you say the name is. He was pastor, then he was the second pastor of St. James after Arthur Groudon.
Oh, okay.
I never knew either one of those men. Pastor Feeney came later in that year.
Oh, okay.
In the fall of 1962, September, I believe.
Okay.
And he's the pastor I remember. He's the pastor that confirmed me and was responsible for most of my education over that time. So yeah, and so I was here at that church. I was when we transitioned over to the YMCA, and then finally we moved into this building. And I was confirmed in 1974, and then not too long after that, I kind of became a teenager and disappeared. And I didn't really quit going to church, but I went to church with other people, some people down the road, the neighbors, or friends from high school, that sort of thing. So I got kind of exposed to other denominations during that time, and then finally got, serious and came back to church, but was a member in Calvary at Indianapolis right after Gretchen and I got married. Gretchen and I actually got married at Lakeview Wesleyan Church. That's where she was attending when we were dating and so forth. And fortunately, for me anyway, she decided to become a Lutheran, and so she was confirmed at Calvary in Indianapolis.
Calvary Lutheran, or
yeah.
Okay. So now your mom was one of the first members, though, wasn't it? Or
she probably was not an original member, but she was pretty early on in the 50s. Yeah. We have a photograph, my mom does, of her and my dad out in front of the Western Avenue Church just after they had gotten married there. And they got married in 53.
Oh, so your parents got married at
yes.
St. James.
And I have a confirmation certificate from my father. He was confirmed there in 56.
Okay. Oh, wow.
I have to imagine he might have been baptized there also, but I do not know. My mom would have been baptized earlier. Okay. So yeah, they would have known a lot of the original members, absolutely. But yeah, it goes way back. So,
Gretchen, how'd you get here?
Yeah, well, I married into it, I guess.
Oh, okay.
I was going out to Lakeview when we were dating, but before that, I went to Central Christian, which was growing up.
Was that here? Or?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's closed.
Oh, okay.
My grandma and we all went there when I was little.
Oh, okay.
So.
Okay.
And that's where you were baptized, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you guys got married what year?
1988.
1988. Okay. Okay. And so that's when you came into the church, like
To the Lutheran Church.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, May of '89 was your confirmation date. I looked it up.
Oh, okay.
Right. We got to be good with numbers, right?
Yeah. Well, especially you. You're good. So what roles have you played in the church through the years?
Well, I looked back. I did more when the kids were little. I helped with the nursery. Like I would contact people and try to get people, to work in the nursery when our kids were little. That's one of the reasons we came here from Huntington, because Huntington didn't have anything for younger kids. And by the time Grace arrived, we were trying to keep them all in the pew, and it was getting kind of crazy for a while. But then I did that, and then I did Mommy and Me for a while.
Okay.
With Mrs. Goey. She was, and my kids went to preschool here.
Oh, okay.
Grace and, well, they all did. And so I helped with that a lot. I did the younger kids, like the Sunday school, vacation Bible school. Yeah. Then we did a lot. I was on the youth board for a while, and we did a lot with that, with the kids when the kids were in it.
Now, you went to some youth conventions too, didn't you?
Yes, right. I got involved with the youth group. So we'll get to that, back to that. Yeah. But yeah, like Gretchen was saying, we were members at St. Peter at Huntington.
Oh, okay.
And that's where Grace and Raleigh were both baptized there.
Okay.
And we attended there for 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
After we left Indianapolis and Calvary and moved our membership there. But then we came back to St. James. Like she says, our kids. The other thing was, it was right around that time that my dad passed away.
Oh. And
so then, not to leave my mom to go to church alone either, so we all went together and we started coming here, which turned out to be very good for us. But it was in 1999 then, a year later, that I was asked to be on the stewardship board and then be financial secretary. And I took over being financial secretary from Eleanor Murray. Eleanor Murray probably was the financial secretary for about as long, if not longer, than what I've been treasurer.
Oh, okay.
So she had been there a long time. In fact, her name goes way back, and a very wonderful person. But so I took over for her, and I did that for 4 years, and then I took over as treasurer for Tony Roberts, and Tony had been treasurer, I'm going to say, for 3 terms or 6 years.
Oh, okay.
And I took over. So I took over on July 1, 2003, and I'm still treasurer today. Yeah. Lord only knows how long, right?
Well,
so
keep you.
we just keep going, right? And the 2-year periods keep dropping.
Yeah.
So anyway, yes, and as you mentioned, I've gone to 2 national youth gatherings, the one in 2019 and the one in 2022. I'm also scheduled to go to the one this year. It was I went in 2019 just as a chaperone. My youngest son, Grant, was a part of the youth group, and so I went as a chaperone then, but then kind of got more involved with it, and later became a part of that board as well prior to the 22 event, and I keep the finances for them as well. Also, when I was a boy, I was an acolyte. Acolyte in the early years of this building, and then also have been a server since 2000 under Mark Carlson, and then interim pastors and the other full-time pastors in between, and now as you're here.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of roles. So are there people that have made a big impact on you here? What are some of those people?
Oh, there's a lot of people. Elda has always been so good to our kids, really over the top. I mean, Grant had so much. She'd cook, make him so many brownies and things. It was just unbelievable. He loved it. And then, of course, Joe Chambers. He's always very, very nice.
Yeah.
Easy to work with, you know. Geez, I don't know. There's just quite a few.
Yeah, I guess if I really go back, I mean, I don't think there's like one person where it's like, oh, I had this big crisis in my life and they helped me get through it or anything like that. I think it's more just the examples, especially for me being a man, that a lot of the men have set over the years.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen a lot of, you know, she mentioned Joe Chambers. Certainly, Dwayne McClure, Jim McClure before that. The Israels have been both of them, Ken and Sue, really, when we came back in '98, they got me really involved with the stewardship board. Ken did, and Sue was very helpful over the years as we worked out things with accounting funds and other things. But they've just been good examples as well, because some of these people have been here from my time when I was a kid, and then the period where I wasn't here. They were still here when I got back, you know, and so that was good. But Eleanor Murray, again, I mentioned her earlier. She was actually we had school. We came either during the week or on Saturdays for like either confirmation classes, or if you were younger than confirmation age, you were still coming here and doing, you know, Bible studies of some sort for your age. All right. So we actually came and went to school besides Sunday, one day a week, whether it was in the evening, during the week, or I do recall doing it on Saturdays also.
Oh, okay.
And actually, I do recall doing that at least sometimes at Pastor Feeney's house. When we were at the YMCA, I imagine.
Oh, okay.
It was probably during that time. But
was that
Eleanor Murray was one of my teachers during that time, and you know, I just remember that. There were other guys even that went on to other churches. Gary McClure, I remember him teaching one of the classes that I was in. Going way back, see, we would gather before Sunday school. Here we gathered in what is now called the memorial room, and we had actually little hymnals that we sang songs out of. Beautiful Savior, Jesus Loves Me. Those two will be on my funeral coronation ceremony. But we would sing those songs. You know, they would, you know, have some words with us, and then we would go to our classes, you know, that we were going to go to based on our ages, and that whether that was here or that was, I'm sure, the same at Western Avenue, because I don't have too much recollection of that church, but I do remember being in the basement, and I do remember just a few scant things, and I do remember like even Alan Miller, who married Eleanor Murray's daughter. He was active here, but I think he had more of a Wesleyan background, and then he left and moved on, and he's since passed. But he was active in our, you know, whether that was like Sunday school and that. I know, you know, guys like Jim McClure would have been, and so forth. Sure. Yeah, there's just been a lot of good examples of people over the years that you know, just, you know, that they've been faithful for a long time, and that's nice to see. Yeah.
Just curious, you mentioned the move from the place on Western to the YMCA. before they came here. Why did they go to the YMCA? Was it just between buildings? Or?
There were, this building. I think this building was delayed in getting done. In fact, somebody
they'd already sold the other one.
Yeah, the other one got sold. The other building was sold to the Brethren Church.
Oh.
And then there was like maybe up to a 2-year period where we were going to the YMCA.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And of course, I was a boy. I remember going there. I don't remember a whole lot about being there. I do remember going down to the Hook's drugstore on the corner after church and looking at the comic books, but a time or two. But yeah, we went there, and then they finally moved then into this building. Oh. Yeah, and of course, now it probably seems like, well, how did they manage? Because they didn't have the add-on on the back, the bigger part on the back. It was that was put on later in the 90s, around 96, and yeah, you held classes. Some of them were held actually in the back of the sanctuary.
Oh, okay.
Where that is, and then they had curtains where you could cordon off areas in the memorial room. Wasn't necessarily so named at that time. This room would have been a classroom. The room next door would have been, and that was more for smaller kids. They still have the smaller toilet in there, right? And sink lower down. Yeah.
So, are there any stories or funny anecdotes or anything, adventures that happened here that you remember that stand out?
I don't know, like stories, but I want to make sure that people probably remember the cookie walk. The cookie walk was like, Betty was very into the cookie walk, and Betty would make cookies, remember? Hundreds of cookies, and freeze them. And all the ladies did. And the memorial room was just absolutely, covered in cookies. And you would buy everybody would save their coffee cans, and you'd buy a coffee can for a certain price, and then you could fill it full. And I just remember our kids, Raleigh especially, he just loved that cookie walk. Betty did it for a while, and then I think Susie and her mom did it for a while. It went on for a few years.
So now, what happened during the cookie? How did that work?
Well, everybody just brought in cookies, and then people would come in and buy them.
Oh, okay.
And then, you go home and
it was a fundraiser.
Oh, okay.
It was a fundraiser.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, they were all of them were very nice. But Betty that was one of her big things.
Right. Of course, the big story, I think Dave Aaron told with the celebrities getting married here. That would have been during the period when, I would have been informed through my parents, but I wasn't necessarily active here.
Yeah, we were in
Indianapolis then. And, but yeah, that was an interesting story.
Well, and then when we were in Huntington, the Goulds were part of Grandma McClure's family. So I guess this church started off of it was a mission from the Huntington Church, is what I've always been told.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, it probably very likely is. And if you look at some of these, the historical information in some of these directories that we have here, it talks about representatives from the Huntington Church attending, like, the dedication of the Western Avenue building and that,
Yeah, they just last year celebrated their 175th anniversary up there.
Yeah, we were there at about 145. Yeah, we 1992. Yeah, somewhere in 94. It would have been 94 because they were, I think, formed in 1849 up there. Yeah,
that's incredible.
It's a nice church, but it's not like in any way handicap accessible at that time.
Yeah,
it was like next to impossible to get in there. I would think they have one area where you can park, and I think you can get in there, but
those older churches, even downtown Fort Wayne, they're older. None of them were. They're all these big steps up to St. Paul's. They're all of them. Yeah, that's for sure. Any other stories or?
Well, I guess I'll show you my show and tell item.
Yeah, I know you guys brought some
This
show and
one
tell,
item
so-
that I did bring, okay.
Go ahead and hold that out, so-
I hang this on my wall. I've had it on my wall since I was a boy, and then I took it from my parents' house. It's now in my house that we live in, on the wall in my bedroom. But I would have made this in the basement at the Western Avenue Church. I would imagine it was like Vacation Bible School. I do remember some instances of going outside and playing games in the yard there. And then I remember making this at that church. So
And that has marbles on it.
it has marbles on it. It's plywood with marbles glued on it. And I did have to replace one marble. I see one marble is smaller. But so this is that glue has held on there since the 1960s, right?
Wow.
Yes, it is.
Except for
Other than one marble.
Yeah,
All right.
which we lost.
And you got all those books.
Yes. Well, when Betty moved out, she said, ask us if we wanted all these. So these go all the way back to, what's the first one? There's 69, but I thought there was one older than that. Maybe 69 is the oldest. But yeah, it's kind of fun. I mean, to look at it and see the people, like the families and stuff, and it brings back memories too. People.
Yeah, Janice has started putting photographs from the various things out there. Matter of fact, you go out on there's a thing in 1969 that has you in it, 1969. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, there's a lot of great mementos there. So, what are some significant changes that have happened in the years that you guys have been here?
Well, the one thing is I got rid of our pew. Remember when they put
there's your story right there.
our family pew?
You know, everybody has assigned seating, right?
Yeah.
And like
So-
good Lutherans, we always sat in the back on the right-hand side. Right exactly where the sound booth is now. And when Pastor Larman was here, they took out our pew and put in the sound booth.
So
But
now
I
we have
probably
to step
sat in that
forward.
pew from when I was a kid. Then my parents probably just kept sitting there, and then when we came back, we sat in the same pew.
It was like behind us, Sabanskis were behind us, and then it was us, and then it was Browns, and then who was in front of them? I mean, there was just a certain, we sat there Wilkes sat way up front, which with the twins and everything, that was pretty good. Keep the twins occupied in the front, in the front.
The Wilkes?
Yeah, when they were little, when they had both the twins up there.
Well, yeah, matter of fact, they told that story in their video, which will be coming out, where the couple in front of them, that was their pew, and they said, when we die, you can have the pew.
Oh, that's funny.
And so that's why they sit there. That couple died, and they inherited the pew. So.
Yeah, we weren't that brave. We always sat in the back because of our kids.
Yeah. I always sit in the back whenever I go into it.
So we got forced to move a little bit closer to the front. That's okay too. But there have been, changes. Of course, when I was a boy, it was pretty standard. I mean, you had the Lutheran hymnal, which was a red hymnal.
Right, TLH, yeah.
And you followed either page 5 or 15. 5 without communion, 15 with communion. We had Pastor Feeney. Pastor Feeney had a good voice. He was a chanter. And so some of us are used to that.
Yeah.
Some are not so used to it. I like it. It doesn't bother me at all. So obviously then when he left, and then Herman Heine served as interim, I wasn't really attending here regularly then, but I would come from time to time with my parents. And then I was actually here on the Sunday in '87 when Mark Carlson was installed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so then, things changed. And in that, even with Pastor Feeney and it being what you might say a little more formal, I don't know that I want to say it was like high church or whatever. I just want to say it was a little more formal, traditional way of doing things. We still had like a supplemental hymn book.
Oh,
It was,
sure.
I think it was called Hymns You Like to Sing. It was a little red paperback book, and it had, a lot of different, traditional hymns that maybe weren't necessarily in the Lutheran hymnal that we would sing out of that from time to time. So I think St. James has always been kind of, embracing of, it has to be sound doctrine, obviously, but
Right.
embrace other things from other, Christian elements,
Right.
and so forth. But and then we got more into the, kind of blended. I think during Mark Carlson, it would have been more blended. And then we've got, and we've had for years, we've had what you call, I guess, contemporary,
Yeah.
and then traditional, and
Ours is kind of a blended contemporary.
Right.
Yeah.
right. And the thing I found about Lutheran contemporary is still using, it still is traditional in the sense it follows an order of service,
Mhm.
which I think is important. I mean, you got to have some structure, right?
Right.
And you would want to hit certain things throughout, confession and so forth.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's changed a little bit over time. Back when I was a boy, that boys would have served as acolytes,
Mhm.
men would have been ushers,
Yeah. So
and that's kind of evolved over time. And then even there, when I first started serving, the servers would be readers, and we would actually, offer the prayer during the service.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be up to us to put that together and pray during the service. But that's kind of changed as well. Of course, we have girl acolytes and women that read and so forth, and all that's fine. It's just,
Yeah.
it's just the way things have evolved over time.
Yeah, when I was going through confirmation, probably about the same time you were in the 70s, the acolytes were all boys. As a matter of fact, Darla and I were basically the same age, a little bit different coming into the church, but she never served as an acolyte, and now that's pretty common. Same thing with readers. In fact, I don't really remember there being readers except the pastor, and every church I've been has been a little bit different. Some I've done all the reading, some the lay people have done the reading. It doesn't really matter to me, but yeah,
The
it's a variety.
lay person reading is a more what I would say recent development even here. I mean, I don't remember when I was a boy anyone other than the minister reading the different texts for the day.
Yeah, I think it was probably pretty uniform in most Missouri Synod churches in the 60s and even early 70s that the pastor did pretty much everything, but that's changed, So.
My confirmation class, I would say we probably had about a dozen people, maybe or so, in it. Back in '74, there are still two of those that are members here, other than myself, but Susie Mack or Susie McClure at the time, and then Debbie Sealer or Debbie Wolf would have also been in that confirmation class, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Any other things that have changed? Okay. So how has St. James affected your faith walk? How has it impacted you spiritually?
I just think the people here kind of hold you accountable without being, they don't condemn you, but people are always notice you and say, how are you doing? Or have you, I missed you last Sunday, and then
Yeah.
it makes you want to be here and take a bigger part
Right.
in the church. This is when we were in Indy, I was working weekends because I was working in the hospital. And if you missed, was it 3 Sundays, you got a card. And
No.
so I would always work really hard not to miss the third Sunday, even if I was working. So I never wanted to get a card. But
She tried to get me to sign her in anyway. And
that's
sign
funny.
me in so I don't, get a card in the mail. But
right. She'd
I
get a
did have-
card and I wouldn't because I had the luxury of being able to go, but she was a nurse, so she had to work. Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah, well, having been, baptized at this church, I mean, I don't remember a time where I ever have not really believed. I can, and I'll attribute to the fact that I was baptized as an infant and God did what he says he does through baptism for me. So, I didn't always act like that, but I know that it was true. God has been faithful to me. I've not always been consistent. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So, but this has been where I went. First went through confirmation, all those formative years. It did make a difference, even if I departed and went away for a while. God called me back to this, my faith started to grow at other churches. I think really at Huntington, it probably was just the season of life I was in, and God was working on me then there, and then that's continued on here as we've come back here. We've had a lot of good teachers, a lot of good Bible studies and things over time.
So what are some goals that you have for St. James? What are some things you'd like to see happen in the future here at St. James?
Well, we like to see more families, younger children. It's hard when, there's no kids.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see we have some,
Yeah.
but it'd be nice to have more.
More. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I really think that, and I know a lot of other people have said this, but I think the outreach piece of it, I think when we had the preschool and daycare, those were good ministries. People knew St. James was here, and they thought highly of those programs. Maybe someone else can say, but I don't really know that it really brought a lot of people into our congregation. But still, the outreach, the gospel message, and all that going out is still the main thing. But yeah, some way to connect with the community and fill, physical needs while sharing with them the gospel message, which hopefully will we plant the seeds and God makes them grow. So that's what we hope for. But yeah, I would say the young families, if we had more of that, that would be wonderful. And then just to not disappear from the landscape, to be visible in the community.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's important to be visible in the community, and our church is pretty known just from my contact in the community. When they found out where I'm from, they know the church, and then of course my interaction with some of the social service agencies through Kiwanis is that we give a lot of money to them and serve in a lot of capacities, and so yeah, it's important. So is there any questions I didn't ask you that you wanted to be asked, or anything else you wanted to share that we didn't cover?
I think we covered quite a bit.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be something when I walk out.
Oh,
of
I
here,
know.
but-
It always is. It always is. So, well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week or at some point with another interview for the 75th anniversary. Peace out. Okay.
Walking these streets, shadows fall, lost in a world, echoes call, searching for life, voices true, St. James Church in the heart of the blue. Glorify God, nurture all, share the gospel, hear the call. That is what we do at St. James, breaking chains, singing new names, pushing through the night.